right, let's jump straight into it. So it's what are we at? Ooh, 9:59. So it's called 10 a.m. on 28th of the 5th. So I'll start off with Aussie here because this is a something I've been looking at as a little bit of a sort of wider view. Like we've got this long sort of falling resistance, and when I say long, I'm talking going back to sort of May 21. So literal 3 years we've got of more or less decline in the Aussie coming through here. We did see it try and sort of poke its head out sort of coming into December last year. And of course, we know how Aussie sort of fared after that and got absolutely blasted back down. But what I have been looking at, a couple of things really. This sort of repeating action here. Aussie loves to set up these weekly. This is on a weekly time frame, so it's a very high time frame for particularly compared to what I normally trade. But it likes to set up these supports, drops down, sucks people in, fakes them out, and then rips up to the top side. We've seen it happen once, twice, and this is what I called a couple of weeks ago 3 times. So this is obviously being the third time. But what it has also actually given us is a higher low, which, you know what I mean, we did have a high low back over here in May last year as well. So we've seen that typically this month, this period in the past has been, generally sort of pretty strong for Aussie. All right, and back. Yeah, so look, basically, sort of, we saw Aussie sort of, obviously, as I said a moment ago, get smacked down from its first attempt coming out here. It's come back down, it's trapped out a couple bunch more people, put in its higher low, and now it's closed on the outside here, and quite a strong sort of bullish candle close to the top side here. Obviously, we did see it close out this side here, but this is obviously, if in hindsight, after you can see how it played out, this was a little bit of an iffy candle over here. And again, it came into an area where we know sellers have loved to sell it previously, and that's where it got knocked back down. So at the moment, we've got the breakout candle, we've got the backtest candle, and now we're sort of obviously pushing forward. We've got retail sales out in just over an hour, and really the bigger driver is going to be CPI tomorrow. If we sort of get a high print on that, we're going to see Aussie sort of strengthen up. If we take out these highs, well, the sort of obvious sort of levels that we'll be looking for, as you can see, here's the weekly body fill. And then above that is just going to be these wicks. Weekly, bear with me, battery seems to be dying on this thing. Okay, I'm back again. Battery is sort of dying on these headphones. So yeah, so the next sort of point we would be looking at would obviously be the weekly wick fills. And as we've seen previously, this has sort of obviously been a sort of a bit of a sort of heavy area where the market likes to sort of sell these things down. But you got to remember as well, every time that we tap into these areas, there is an endless supply sitting at these points. You've got people that are sort of like, obviously trading longs up through to this area. You've got people that have sort of thought, look, you know what, they're overall short and they're sort of smacking it down. And for the last 3 times, it's worked very well for them. I mean, if you look at these deep pullbacks here, I can't remember, it's like an 8% pullback or something like this from this smack from up here. Yeah, 8.89%. This one over here is what, 6.5%, about the same over here, 6.5%. So you know what I mean? Like these things, they don't go through the first time, as you've seen. Tried to come up here, smack down, came back here, smack down. But each time you hit into here, you are actually sort of weakening whatever supply they have to sort of sell from that level. So, eventually it will sort of go through. Plus, you've got the added fact that Aussie does like inverted head and shoulders, and this is a bit of an inverted head and shoulder with a very clear, distinct neckline up along here. And I've said this a few times that, what I've been looking for this potential move up through here, because this would be, as I said, if we put this to a measured move, dragged on the top up here, takes us, depending where you sort of put it exactly, way up to the top over here. And this is how I've sort of reached sort of an idea that on the break of this level here, and obviously, look, we've got tough areas to get through. It's not going to cut through straight away. We're not going there sort of next week. But the thing is, when these things do break and sort of break out, we can see these kind of targets get hit. And if you look at this chart, particularly, and then you have a look at sort of what copper did when copper went through its falling resistance, this is the similar here, copper coming through here. This one was a falling resistance from Feb 22, so actually sort of longer. Longer is it? I can't remember. No, a little bit shorter than the Aussie, but very distinct, as you can see here. You know, rejected, rejected, came through here, very similar to Aussie in the sense that it came through, had a little bit of a test out to the top side, bang, smack back down, time and time again. It also had, as you can see quite clearly here, I can see it quite clearly, but I'll still mark it out, a little head and shoulders pattern that came through here as well. And as you can see, it popped through here. It did take a couple of weeks of grinding to the top side over here with a couple of fake down moves and that, yes, but very distinct. You've got your levels coming through here. I mean, copper's been an insane run, but if you look at the move with copper, little head and shoulders coming through this sort of falling resistance, you've put in your high lows, break through. Yeah, I mean, again, as I said, it took a little while to get through there, but bang, when it got on, it exploded out. So that is very similar, if we flip back to the Aussie, of what we're potentially looking at the early stages of here. Again, sort of, you know, out to the top side here, maybe stuff's around here for another month or 2 months or 3 months or so. But certainly once it gets above that neckline, so let me just pop that back on one more time, above that neckline, which is this level just here, you can see neckline, head, neckline, shoulder, bang. That's your neckline here. Once it went through that neckline, that's when it took off. And this is what we're potentially setting up for with Aussie. This will come with DXY selling down. We'll broader sense of US dollar sell-off across the market. We've seen copper run. Aussie runs with copper typically. Aussie runs with risk on, which is equity markets up. You know, both of these things are absolutely screaming to all-time highs. Aussie has been lagging. There's a lot of way for it to sort of catch up. So, yeah, that is just something that I'm potentially looking for. So if we get above this level over here, I would say we're in potentially for a couple of 100-point move to the top side through there. All right, I mean, that's forward thinking. Let's get into the here and now. So we go back onto our smaller time frames. We did see this breakthrough nicely, this little channel that we had. Actually, using this for the daily chart. Over the weekend, actually sort of coming into last week, I was saying, look, this is an area where I think buyers are going to be sort of getting pretty interested about it again. Put it on the 4 hour. We can see, you know, if you watch what I do, we love negative divergence down the bottom of this pullback. You can see this last push down here said buyers are going to be getting interested around here, and of course they did. This is where they're going to be targeting that wick that sold us down last week. This is where we sort of broke through this area, said, look, there's a chance we tap into here and come back down. It got slammed, bangs, all the way down. Not only has it recovered this, it's taken out that area, and now we're back up into this zone. So this was the little arrow where we sort of thought, you know, this is where it's going to be targeting. You can see it's thought about it a little bit here, but as of this second, anyway, of this morning, it is pushing through a little bit to the top side here. So next kind of ideas of levels that we're sort of probably looking for is, as I said, up around here. It's only about 70, 30 points away in that, 70, 30 points away, 20, 30 points away at the 70 level, where we really had a lot of sort of selling. After that sort of sell down here, we were unable to get back along here. This little spike up over here got us there for a brief second, and this was actually mainly generated as a proxy move from the RBNZ when they had their whole sort of hold on interest rates last week, which was considered a bit more of a hawkish hold. And that sort of got us up there for a brief second, but of course then bang, you can see the reaction afterwards. Once sort of DXY obviously picked up a little bit of steam as well. So coming back through here, it's looking like it wants to sort of push a little bit higher, take out these wicks for a little bit of a sort of confirmation just to there. And then we sort of be looking up around that sort of 70s to 80s level. You get above 80s, and then that's the next level going up here. And then again, we're back to sort of targeting those highs. And that's the thing. Once you're targeting these highs, that's your weekly breakout. And you know, you sort of think, oh, you know, it was a pretty heavy sort of sell down. It didn't look like a great weekly candle. Back onto this for just 1 second. You can see breakout, boof, straight back down. But if you remember when we were trading this level down here, This was the big wedge that we were trading from last year. It doesn't look so apparent on the weekly candles here, but this was a big breakout. And then look at the next week, bang, straight back down. It was actually 61%, if I recall, of this move here is the base for that breakout move. Just over 60, what, bang, knocks here, 61%, as we can see just here, and then you can see the end result over here. So, the fact that it's just come up and then come back down, not the end of the world. I mean, it's Tuesday now. It's starting to make its way up along here. Going to look for, of course, the weekly body fills. That's the first level, because even if it moves up to these levels, there's a chance that these things obviously can just tap into these, and then we can see a bit of a pushback. We are seeing it a little bit overbought at the stage here, so on the weekly. So, it does sort of support the idea that it could be sort of sort of cooling off. But as I said, we've got some big news this week, which will drive the Aussie. If we get a high CPI, that's going to drive the Aussie. We've got retail sales out in an hour. If that comes in higher, that's going to drive the Aussie. I was reading something the other day and saying that we haven't had two consecutive weak prints in retail sales since 2021, so 3 years. So, that sort of obviously supports the idea that we might actually see a little bit of Aussie strengthening and higher sort of data coming through here as well. Excuse me. As we see, it's slowly trying to push through here as we sort of kick off with the day. Anyway, keep on moving. We got DXY. DXY breaking down. This was the call over the weekend. Basically, we needed this pullback area over here. You can see it better on a daily time frame. Which chart do we have it on? This one. I'll get back on this one here. There we go. I think 4 hours showing a little bit better. This is an area where we can see it's been support, 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 and obviously broke through, came up here, it played its part over this side as well. So as we can see coming through here, and this is what I say, these parts always come. I actually took the arrow off this part, but you have your push down, support, you push up, you find resistance. Generally, typically a good area to look is where we've previously seen support. And then this leg is the leg that we're in right now, is the one that's really important, because this is the one that's going to tell us, are we still moving on this particular path? Are we sort of going to be stalling? Are we going to be, sort of reversing? Any number of things can sort of come from this, but this leg generally has to come. Look, there are occasions where you get V-shaped recoveries, but typically in a normal scenario, unless you've got some large news-driven sort of price move, you're not going to see a complete V-shape recovery, and that's obviously sort of general fake outs. But this area down, support, resistance, and now we're coming here. We're in this middle leg here now. Well, middle leg, sorry. We're in this last leg of this move here now. So this is either going to give us a double bottom, a continuation. I don't think this is going to come. Maybe GDP later this week could sort of bring this to break through here. We'll have to wait and see. Or it'll find support here, and then you start to see a higher low, and then potentially we're seeing US dollar strengthening up again a little bit. So, there is a little bit of sort of Fed hawkish tone sort of coming into their sort of way of speaking at the moment, which could sort of support some sort of rally coming through. We have seen it sort of obviously sort of find support along this sort of higher time frame, rising support, basically. So I think these are going to be the areas to really pay attention to, because if we zoom in on these ones here, we've got it marked out. We've got the weekly body fill and the previous weekly wick. These are the two areas that I'm sort of paying attention to. I think if we get down underneath that wick, then we could see really a bit of an assault on that 104 area. But as we do see it at the moment, look, these are areas that we've marked out. Probably on the 4 hour, you might be able to see it a bit better. We've seen these areas supported. We know that the market has bought it from these areas before. Again, these things don't go through first time. So you're coming through here, you're coming through here, and now we're seeing buyers trying to come through here. Even just below this, coming through here, it's going to take a little bit to get through here. It's not just going to sort of melt down with it all, particularly after you've had this big sort of sell down over here. So if we have a quick look just off this last sort of push up here, we're coming into the 78% retracement on this move as well. So yeah, look, I could see potentially some sort of turnaround Tuesday sort of stuff happening, a little bit of US dollar buying. This would obviously sort of, slow down the metals a little bit. The metals are just, well, they say the metals, but uh, silver, particularly overnight, had a great run. Gold lagging a little bit. It really sort of has. It's not quite the same sort of shine, excuse the pun, but as the silver. But yeah, it's holding up for now. But yeah, I could expect it probably a little bit of a sort of cool down on the metals, sort of moving through the session at least. All right. So yes, DXY just targeting this area here, which we're tapping into now, incredibly oversold. Like these things can stay oversold or overbought for quite a while, but generally when you're seeing something completely flatlining like this, you could expect sort of people also to be seeing this and going, you know what, maybe it's a good time, given these previous areas of buying, we could see a little bit of a push up here and a little bit of a sort of a rally attempt, maybe even sort of coming back up to this area here, which got smacked into a couple of times yesterday. It was a bank holiday yesterday in England and the US as well. So again, there's a saying where people say, don't short a quiet market, and that's a perfect example of it because metals just absolutely ripped to the top side on that kind of sort of lack of selling pressure to oppose all the sort of buying there. Gold, as I said, look, over the weekend, we knew that sort of 23.30, it's a very strong area. We've seen it happen time and time before. Look, this is an area where we've seen sellers. This is the thing. So we've seen the sellers have valued it a little bit here. They've obviously sort of been buyers on this side here as well. It is slowly sort of grinding up around here. So I think we could potentially see a little bit more upside before a pullback. I think this is just a little sort of a holding area. We are a little bit overbought. This is on the 4 hour. It is sort of thinking about it here. Excuse me. Any sort of drop down here, I think it'll be bought up quite quickly. But certainly still, after such a strong sort of sell down, you got to sort of think that anybody that's sort of got their longs up here, if they get a chance to sort of just mitigate their losses, they'd be sort of, okay, bang, let's sort of just get out for a little bit here. I was actually thinking, this reminded me of a move. It goes back a couple of years. So bear with me one sec. I have to find what chart I had it on actually. Let's put it on the daily. It was at least a weekly or a daily, but a lot lower, around the 1700s. Gives you an idea of how far back we're going. And where is it? This bit here. Yep. And this is, I've marked it out because I thought it's probably obviously easier to find. Now this move here, I mean, if you look at this, gold was ripping up here. This was, I can't remember if this was highs or all-time highs or what it was doing in that, but it was obviously on a very big rip. I mean, you can see it's just sort of, it's come from the lows down here, pumped up to the top here, and then this on a daily, so over about the course of a week, week and a half or so, it lost 15%, which is incredible sell-off. And I remember this because this is one of these moves where you see sharp sell down, quick buy back up, and then you see the resulting price action. Bang, another 300 move to the top side over there. So gold does love to do these shakeout moves and then come back up to the top side here, which makes me think that if you look at this week's price action, let's get back to where we are, all the way up over here. This could also be setting up for something similar. We've had a sharp sell down, slowly bouncing back up. It's not going to go one rocket candle all the way back up here, as you saw with the last one. It just doesn't do it. But it could grind back up the top over here, meaning that if we get to the top over here, and this is, still, 80 bucks off, so it's still a big move to get back up to the top side there. But if we could get back up to the top side over here, we could be seeing a reminiscent move of that move back around the 1700s. This would give us an explosion to the top side, which would be 1, 2, 3 sort of pushes to the top side, and then I would be calling some sort of medium top around here. Now, I mean, this is obviously a little bit sort of hard to sort of see, particularly after such a big sell down here. Admittedly, look, we could go boom, and it could just take another leg down here. We could be coming all the way back down here. To put it into context of how big that sell-off was, this is around 15% as well. So you can see how drastic that would have been at the time 15% sell down. That's like going from 24.50 back down to 2072 or thereabouts, a couple of bucks either side of it all. So that was a drastic sell down. This is only, I say only, but obviously in comparison, this is a 5% pullback. So, so you got to take these things in context with it all. But you can see how bad that pullback was back then. I remember that was probably around when I started trading gold. But that was a big sort of shakeout move, obviously, and we saw the sort of resulting price action. So you look at sort of things that it's done in the past, little sort of ways that it's sort of conducted itself, and you know what it is capable of doing. So if it does get back up to these top levels here, I would say, even though you're at the highs, there's a good chance, particularly if you get a close above these levels over here, above sort of like, 24.72, I would be chucking some weight on for a blow off top. I think, if we sort of get above there, I reckon you've got 80 bucks of pretty low risk, all new all-time highs. I think the shorts would be loaded up with their stops around these levels as well. If you get a close up around this level over here, let's put an alert on it. I mean, look, this could go back down to sort of 2200 and this could be completely obsolete. But the point is, if we get a close up around here, that's what I'll be looking for. Sort of what I'm going to call a lower risk, high sort of probability payoff of a blow off top to the top side over here. So that's, again, forward thinking. Here and now, we've moved up off the lows. It is somewhat sort of flagging, kind of consolidating through this area here. You would like to sort of see it hold this little low that it's got here around sort of 51. If you get a sort of pullback to here, I would say, we'll probably maybe be looking for these wicks for another entry. And I think that, as I said, I think that there's, in the short term, 2370 is a reasonable area to sort of be targeting, because we saw quite a strong sort of sell down from here. You can see it tried to rally a number of times. This was actually, I can't remember what it was. I think it was the US PMI, which sort of stifled this sort of little move to the bottom side down here. So I would say that sort of like if you can get a break above 58, you'd be targeting 68, which is a 10 buck move up to the top side there. Then you'd watch out for a break above that. Particularly if you were short, I think you might sort of start to see people sweat a little bit. It has been, as you can see, little areas through here sort of grinding its way down. These are all going to be sort of little tough areas to beat. It's not just going to sort of melt straight through to the top side with these ones. So yeah, it's going to be tough work for it, and didn't really produce the same as silver. If we have a look at silver quickly, which I don't typically cover, you look at silver yesterday, and it had its little resistance through here. This is the area here. You can see sellers had tried to hold it a number of times, sort of here, and even sort of as it was coming back into it. But once it let go, bang, shot up to the top side here. As you can see, bang, right back down here. This was the sell areas we were looking for the early week after that big push. Didn't get those fills, but obviously back down here, weekly fills of those previous highs, high wicks, going way back over here. Can't be bothered sort of scrolling all the way there. But as you can see, tapped into that area, took a couple of attempts of it. That was the higher low. And once we broke through that level there, then we just saw it sort of take off. So yeah, I mean, silver definitely sort of performed a little bit better than gold in its recovery. It's finding a little bit of sort of selling pressure early this morning, but as I said, you're seeing DXY sort of come into that area where people are going to start to give it a little bit of a shot. That's going to make a little bit of an issue for the metals to move forward. So a little sort of range through this area here. I think this is where, in at least early Asia, you'd want to see it sort of hold this lower range here. We come back down here, potentially these wicks, I would say, would be your next point to sort of try and sort of see if we could get a little bit of a push up. So it would be either, if we do break through here, bang here, to then sort of go up. Otherwise, as I said, sort of, you potentially, another one here, potentially just seeing some sort of range through here. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a pullback down here, about 20 points or something at least, before we see another attempt to sort of buy it up and push to the top side. Sweet flip across quickly. China slowly trying to break down, took out this little bit of a sort of somewhat of a channel that it was working with. Of course, buy back in, buy back in. It's a pretty well-defined little ledge that it's got going on here. We are seeing it weaken a little bit. I'd say one more tap into here, and then we're going to see our pull down. You can see that the buys have been here previously, so this is going to offer a bounce area, and then probably back down. Look, I wouldn't say one of these. I would say pretty much this whole sort of green area as we have marked out here. I would say this is probably your area to look for, particularly once you get through this 725. But for now, it's just holding up. It's grinding, it's grinding, it's grinding. So we'll sort of see how this happens. We're seeing metals actually come off a little bit now as well. So I'm going to just fix up a few positions. And finally, we will just flick across and have a look at copper. So we've seen it, obviously tried to sort of break out of this area. This is where we're saying. So this is the leg that we're looking for at the moment. That last one, I say last one, but there's one where we're going to determine whether we've got anything more in this move. It's come down here, had a little triangle through this area, which has popped through. It's coming into its own little sort of range here at the moment. So if we sort of zoom into this a bit more, where we go. Let's see a little range through here. I think a break to the top side here could see further buying back up to test these lower wicks just over here. So that's where I'd be sort of targeting. And again, look, this could just be part of a further sort of cooling off, and we could see some sort of move and sort of back and forth to the downside over here. Really sort of depends how much they want to sort of give DXY a shot here. I'd say if DXY sort of cuts through this area that we were looking at earlier, then that'll be enough to give this a little pop to the top side here. We see DXY sort of rally a little bit. I'd expect maybe a little bit more range play through the bottom over here with copper. But certainly, you know what I mean? It's not dead. It's just, it's hit all-time highs. It took out our massive price target, and, it's just cooling through here. So, I expect little rally attempts and that sort of on the way. But, we've got to sort of see, you know, really what happens with DXY, because it's quite a sort of pivotal point. As I said, we want to see, is it continuation of sell-off? If it is, on with the party, metals back up, Aussie ripping, copper sort of moving to the top side, China selling down. That's what we're looking for. If they do decide to rally it up, as I said, there's always that potential that you got that DXY fifth leg coming. So if that does happen, well, then we're going to see a further cooling. And realistically, I mean, if you look at copper, it's been an insane run, and it's just gone off on its own tangent. Here's what you could call your main trend. It picked out a whole new one and just decided to just go screw you, and we're just going to run up like this. And as you can see, it's actually sort of finding a bit of support if this was its new new trend line away from the main trend. It's finding support around this area over here as well. You'd have to clean this up a little bit. Obviously, just do that quickly, just by eye. Something along this line here, pretty much. That's almost sort of coming in as we're seeing, through here, through here. I don't know if you could really drag this. I mean, with these things moving on such levels, you can't really make a channel, but that could, in a blow off, not even blow off top, but on with the party kind of move, could be a potential channel that you'd be looking for, which would obviously take it to another lot of all new all-time highs. But it's a little bit early to be getting into that kind of thing. It's just these are just forward-thinking moves, and that would be obviously something like this. Anyway, that's it from me for now. We'll be watching Aussie retail sales coming out in just under an hour now. CPI tomorrow is the bigger one, but we'll certainly see if Aussie can get a little bit of a pop-off. Test up towards, I think, sort of, if we get a positive read on retail sales, and higher the better for the strength, I think that could definitely give us up to sort of testing the 80s. Above, sort of, as I said, above 84, then 67 to 67.10, the next sort of price targets in the short term anyway. All right, that's it from me.